Hey guys, welcome back on the channel. It's been a while. I played 2 tournaments in a row, 18 days of constant chess, like tournament games, even twice a day. Sometimes, I believe, 5 blitz tournaments in the evenings, 2 rapid tournaments in the meantime. I went there with my son, so we both played. In the first tournament, I played 9 rounds. I made 5.5 out of 9. It wasn't anything that special. I even lost rating points. Second tournament, I went to way stronger and way more famous and like more prestigious Serbia Open in Belgrade. More than 500 competitors, and I started very lame, like 2 draws, and I even lost to woman GM. And then I made a fantastic comeback. I made 6 wins and draw against GM Subel from Slovenia. I wanted to show you one of the important games against a very young FM from India, who, by the way, after this tournament became an IM, and this is the only loss of that guy from the tournament. I decided to play e5 first move, and somehow I just decided to play against these younger guys this e5 and to be a little bit more solid and more positional. And it turned out to be good and to work out well. I made 4 out of 5 with the black pieces playing e5 first move, so it's time to show you how to play against the right Lopez. But before that, I just want to tell you one interesting curiosity. Out of all these players, like 500 players in general, and in the tournament more than 350, and I mean the A tournament where I competed, I tied for fourth with 6.5 out of 9. But do you know what? Can you imagine that I was me and Grandmaster Atalik were the oldest guys amongst top 50? Can you imagine that? So all kids, and these kids are really strong. They play really well, and chess is changing. I want to show you like my game from the tournament. I was black in the game, and I decided to play e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, and against bishop e5 I played cozy defense against Grandmaster Ivic, but I just opted to play once again the main line with a6. After bishop a4, knight f6, I'm threatening to take the pawn on e4, and white just went for castles. They just give me an option to play the open Spanish and open right Lopez to take on e4. I decided not to go for that, and I decided to go and play bishop e7. And here I played against a woman IM, Pogorelski, 2 rounds before that, a famous Akiba Rubinstein's plan with a rook e1, b5, bishop a3. And here you have an option to give them a possibility to play the Marshall Gambit with castle, or just to go for a classics d6. Defending on e5 means that you're threatening knight a5 to win the light square bishops after c3 castles. You just go with this, and if they give you a chance to play, like bishop g4, you should never miss it. You should take advantage of the bishop before, or what my opponent played, h3, preventing bishop g4. And here you have so many options. Zaitsev with bishop b7, Breyer with knight b8, h6, followed by rook e8, bishop f8. But I just opted for knight a5, bishop c2, c5, d4, threatening to take on e5, queen c7, and after knight bd2, I decided to play the famous plane of Akiba Rubinstein from 1912. So no matter what I do, like a4 and in rook b8, they take, and when they play knight f1, you always go with going back with the knight here, then you go with g6, hide your knight here. If they ever play bishop h6, that's what she played, you play f6, knight f7, harassing that bishop, and at crucial moment you just unleash the attack on the king's side and the game with f5. Although my opponent, after that game, decided to go with a modern d3, b5, bishop a3, d6, and I was expecting classic Svidler's approach. He made a very nice course about it. a3 castles, knight c3. I already played a game like this against Serbian FM Pajin. I played knight b8 here, Carlsen's idea, similar and reminiscent of the Breyer's variation, a little bit different, but that's the idea, to transpose this knight to d7 and reposition it, to go with the light square bishop on b7 and to play c5. Although, in this game, my opponent didn't opt for a3, not even for classic c3. He opted for the most popular currently move in the world, bishop d2, which is aimed against knight a5. It was played by Carlsen. It was played by Caruana, with amazing successes by white lately. To be honest with you, I knew about this move. I knew that the idea is to prevent for the time being knight a5, and I'm kind of familiar with his ideas, but yeah, I said, okay, no big deal, let me just play a game of chess. I played castles, and after I played castle, my young opponent, who was like 16 or 17 years old, FM from India, played h3. It's always okay and pretty good to go with h3 to prevent knight g4 and bishop g4. So I said, okay, I'll do the h6. An idea of h6 is to prevent knight g5 in case I want to go, and I do want to go, with the rook e8 followed by bishop f8. So after like h6, my opponent went for the rook e1. When he played rook e1, I played rook e8. An idea of rook e8 is a repositioning and going back with the bishop on f8, opening some possibilities with d5, but more importantly, I'm getting myself ready for g6 followed by bishop g7. My opponent played a4, threatening to take on b5. I played rook b8. It's the most flexible way of solving the problem with a4. And he played knight c3. I said, okay. I was expecting and I was familiar with this idea, so I brought my bishop back to f8. He captured on b5, and what did he get after this? A file was white's. It turned out to be pretty important afterwards in the game. Here I was expecting knight d5, and I was familiar with Carlsen's plan. That's one of ideas when the rook is on b8, to capture on d5, go back with the knight because the rook is not on a8, threatening the bishop because you're happy to win the bishop. And when they go back with the bishop, to reposition your knight on g6 and to have like a pretty good game on the queen side. Then you, for example, you can oppose this bishop with bishop e6, but you also can play queen f6 and, for example, play some knight f4 ideas, doing some sort of action on the king side, even maybe go with some sort of attack with g5 and g4. My opponent, instead of going for knight d5, he surprised me. He surprised me with quite an interesting move, knight e2. It wasn't such a big surprise because it's a normal way of repositioning that knight onto the king side and going to g3 and eventually on f5, preparing himself for the king side action, and maybe giving himself possibility to go with some c3 and d4. I say when the knight comes to g3. Here I made a novelty. There was a game between Etienne Bacroix and Frazinet, game I wasn't familiar with at the moment when I played the game. In that game was classic bishop e6. I did not play that. I played more aggressive d5. And it's pretty interesting novelty because I believe that black just takes like a pretty good initiative here by playing d5, and simply I'm not hesitating. I'm also taking some sort of action, and I'm just giving him like a clear note. Man, I'm not gonna wait. I also want to take an action here. My young opponent played e takes d5, which turned out to be the best, and very aggressively and happily jumped with the knight on d4. By the way, I just have to make a commentary here because all these Indian guys who played in Serbia Open, Parachin Open, and all these Serbian tournaments, they were performing great. One of the most important things about these guys is that they're absolutely booked up. They're very well prepared. Much more important than being booked up is to be like pretty good in terms of chess skills, and they're really good. But there is one thing that is very characteristic for most of these guys. They're absolutely self-confident. Simply, like they're killing with the self-confidence. And I believe one of the most important things to answer them is to also try to kill them with self-confidence by yourself and to kind of play pretty easily against them. And I believe I did great in this tournament because I won all my Indian players except one guy. And after 94, this really looks scary. I cannot take because he's going to take on e8. For example, if I take, he takes on e8, I take, and he takes on d5. And obviously, white has a very pleasant type of the game because connectivity of white pieces, a file, and the possibility for this queen to come on h5 or to play queen f3 gives white better prospects. Although here, I was very happy when I found the next move, and somehow I'm happy when in this type of positional games I find this kind of tactical ideas. Boom, rook b6. Very lovely idea of doing the rook lifting, preventing knight c6, but at the same time making some sort of threats. And I can tell you, even though my opponent was playing, pretty fast up to this moment, when I played rook b6, and when over the board, it's different with an online chess. He looks at your facial expressions, he looks at your gestures during the games, you're behaving. And I played very confidently this rook b6, and my young opponent started to crack in terms of his confidence, and he started to think. And you know what? Then you simply, in these games over the board, feel like better, and then even though according to the engine, for example, white is still a little bit better, during the game, if you send him a signals, like that, you're the one who's in the driver's seat, and you're the one who's the boss in the game, it pretty much probably plays the main role in this type of games. And when I played rook b6, my opponent started wasting lots of time, but he still continued to play the best moves. He played a rook a8. He now takes advantage of the open a file, pins my queen, threatens now to take on d5 and to take on to play knight f3 in some moments, even bishop a5. And here I had a wide range of possibilities. Knight f6, bishop c5, c5, rook g6, and queen d7. I read some articles by some psychologists about chess, and one guy said, I believe his name is not I believe, I know that his name is Krogius. He made a great book, Art in Chess. He said that usually you play the move that comes to your mind in the first 7 seconds. And usually those are the most logical things. I'm not saying always, I'm saying usually. In most of cases, and by percentage, certainly that's the case. So I played queen d7, and believe it or not, that was the move that, simply crossed my mind for the first 5 seconds, I believe. I unpinned myself, and I calculated here that the queen g4 could be pretty cool move for white, and I saw queen g4, h takes g4, knight f6. I assessed that game as pretty okay for black, but according to the engine, if he played queen g4 and knight f6, white would be better. And it's logical. The rook is on e file, the rook on e8 is pinned, the rook on a8 is doing a good job. I cannot take on d8 because they will swap off these rooks and take eventually on c8. And makes sense, but makes sense when you see it on the board. My opponent here made only mistake in the game, and that was enough. He played queen f3. And it's one of those positions where you can pause the video and try to find a move for black. I believe finding a move like this is very important in terms of improving your calculating skills, but also understanding of the game, because chess is not all about the tactics. Sometimes tactics may happen after you find a nice defensive, maybe even a little bit, like a difficult move to find at first glance. It's certainly not so easy, because when you play a game of chess and your opponent plays queen f3, he looks very aggressively, and he keeps looking for aggressive moves, but they somehow usually forget about these defensive ideas. I played knight f6, and he immediately started shaking with his head. He realized that I threatened to take on d4 by pawn, by queen, and that I threatened bishop b7. He had 3 pieces under potential attack, and the rest was just matter of technique. He had to, look at this, I'm threatening to take the knight on d4 by queen or by pawn. I'm threatening to play bishop b7 to win the rook or queen. He played rook c8, which is only move. I played absolutely the best and most accurate rook takes c8, because a rook cannot take knight on d4 is hanging. He played knight f4, knight f5. I once again played e4, pushing my pawn forward and threatening the bishop on d2. He played queen f4. I once again played a best move, simply chasing that queen away, and played rook e8, removing the queen from defending the knight. When he played queen g3, queen f5, queen c7, this was the moment where I started thinking and wasting time about knight e5, trying to keep the rook up. But at the same time, I realized that I was up a rook, that my rook was hanging on b6, and my bishop was hanging on f7. And I was wondering, why should I complicate my life to simply give him some queen f7 or bishop f7 possibilities to try to simply end up being up a rook? Why should you be greedy? I'm up a rook. I'm gonna put the exchange back, or give the exchange back, and that's absolutely the easiest kind of Smyslov type of move. He took, I recaptured by rook, and what do we have here? We're up a piece. And that's what I decided to go for. In the game was d4, nothing special. I mean, he just avoids e takes d3. I played bishop d6, harassing the queen. He played queen c8, check. I played king g7 and played rook a2-1. I played queen d5, which is aimed against a rook a8, because if rook a8, I would go with rook e8 and I would win the rook. Also, he played bishop e3, and now I just play simples. As Smyslov said in his commentaries, and when I analyze his games, I never missed a chance to simplify when I was materially up. So I also did it here. And after, you see, I'm threatening rook c6 to win the pawn on c2. He played c3, I played rook e8. And now I misplaced his queen, and queen on a6 is out of the game. I played queen b3. And when my opponent captured and played queen b7, he wants to go with the rook a7. He wants the last chance in the game. I captured, and simply in this position, he just resigned. Just like you see, game was pretty interesting. I came up against a cutting edge, a very popular variation that scores almost perfect for white. I'm talking about the bishop d2 at 8th move against Lopez, a creation of Grandmaster Bartel from Poland. I came up with a pretty normal game, and then came up with that novelty in the move number 14 d5, and very special move rook b6, 17th move rook b6, that changed the course of the game, because I started to attack and I started to feel confident. That's the difference between online chess and over-the-board chess. I'm back. I came back from tournaments, and I'm gonna start making much more videos these days and these weeks. Hope that you enjoy the game, and see you next time with something even more interesting. Bye bye, guys.